The crystalline spires of the Galactic Council stretched toward the twin suns of Nexus Prime, their surfaces reflecting the morning light across the ancient plaza. At the center of this magnificent courtyard stood a monument older than recorded history itself. Its obsidian surface bore inscriptions in a dozen dead languages, warnings etched by civilizations that had vanished into cosmic dust. General Vex Korath of the Zephyrian Empire strode past the monument without a second glance. His scaled hide gleamed purple in the sunlight, and his 4 arms moved with military precision. Behind him marched a contingent of his finest warriors, their plasma rifles humming with deadly energy. The general had more pressing matters than ancient superstitions. Sir, his aide, Lieutenant Crix, approached with a data pad clutched in his clawed hands. The translation department has finally decoded the oldest inscription on the monument. Korath paused, his golden eyes narrowing. And what does this relic from the past tell us? The lieutenant's voice wavered slightly. It says, "Beware the Pau, silent watchers of the third spiral. They who appear weakest guard the strongest secrets. Do not wake the shepherds, for their mercy ends when their flock is threatened." A harsh laugh escaped Korath's throat. Shepherd metaphors and cryptic warnings. The ancients were always fond of their riddles. He turned to face the monument, fully, studying its weathered surface. What does our intelligence say about this third spiral reference? Our xenoarchaeologists believe it refers to the Outer Rim territories, sir. Specifically, the Sol system and its primitive inhabitants. The general's expression shifted to one of amused disbelief. The humans, those barely evolved primates who have only just discovered faster-than-light travel? He shook his head. 3,000 years of galactic peace have made our ancestors paranoid of shadows. Ambassador Marcus Vale of Earth watched the exchange from across the plaza, his human ears picking up every word despite the distance. His enhanced hearing was just one of many modifications that the Zephyrians didn't know about. Marcus appeared, unremarkable in his simple diplomatic robes, exactly as his people intended. The human ambassador had been observing General Korath for weeks now. The Zephyrian Empire had been making increasingly aggressive moves toward the Outer Rim territories. Their massive industrial complexes required rare minerals, and Earth's solar system contained deposits of elements that could fuel their war machine for centuries. Marcus activated a nearly invisible communication device hidden in his collar. "Shepherd to flock," he whispered in a code that would sound like static to any listening devices. "The wolves are gathering. They've read the old warning but dismissed it as legend." The response came immediately through his neural implant, a technology that the galaxy's other species had never encountered. "Understood, Shepherd. The flock?"
"Is ready. How long do we have?" "Not long," Marcus replied, watching as Korath gestured dismissively at the monument. "They're moving to formal invasion protocols. The general believes humans are defenseless." General Korath was indeed drafting
invasion plans. In his private chambers aboard the massive dreadnought Void Render, he studied holographic displays of the Sol system. Earth appeared as a blue marble, beautiful but undefended. His scouts reported minimal space traffic, primitive defensive satellites, and a population completely unprepared for interstellar warfare. "The humans have something we need," Korath told his war council. "Trilithium deposits in their asteroid belt, rare Earth elements on their homeworld, and labor potential in their billions of inhabitants. They've refused our generous relocation offers." High Commander Zortak, Korath's second-in-command, leaned forward. "Sir, perhaps we should consult the full inscription. Our scholars are still working on—" "Enough!" Korath's fist slammed onto the tactical display. "I will not be paralyzed by ancient fairy tales. The humans have had their chance for peaceful compliance. Now they will learn what happens when a superior species requires their resources." Unknown to the Zephyrian War Council, their every word was being recorded and transmitted across hidden networks that spanned the galaxy. In deep space monitoring stations disguised as asteroids, human observers noted the movement of every Zephyrian ship. On distant worlds, sleeper agents who had lived normal lives for decades suddenly received activation codes. The network that connected these watchers was vast and invisible, Built over centuries of patient work, humanity had not been idle during their supposed primitive isolation. While other species had focused on expansion and conquest, humans had quietly woven themselves into the fabric of galactic civilization. Professor Nathan Cross sat in his study on Luna Base, surrounded by texts that contained the true history of humanity's role in the galaxy. As Earth's chief xenohistorian, he was one of the few who knew the complete truth. The monument on Nexus Prime had been commissioned by humanity itself 3 millennia ago, when they first began their role as secret guardians. The warning was clear enough, Nathan muttered to himself as he watched intelligence reports stream across his screens. But they never listen. They never understand until it's too late. The old professor opened a secure channel to Earth's Defense Command. This is Cross. The Zephyrians have made their decision. Initiate Protocol 7. Across human space, systems that had appeared dormant for generations began to hum with activity. The sleeping giants were waking up, and the galaxy was about to remember why provoking humanity had been forbidden for a very good reason. The Zephyrian armada emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system like a plague of metallic locusts. 2,000 warships of various classes formed a battle formation that stretched across millions of kilometers. At their head, General Korath's flagship Void Render pulsed with menacing energy, its weapon systems charging for the anticipated, easy conquest. Captain Diana Storm stood on the bridge of the UES Defiant, Earth's supposedly most advanced warship. To Zephyrian sensors, her vessel appeared laughably primitive with basic hull plating and conventional propulsion systems. What they couldn't detect were the quantum field generators hidden beneath false panels or the dimensional weapons that existed in folded space-time. "Ma'am, the alien fleet has entered our outer perimeter," reported Lieutenant Commander Jake Torres from his sensor station. "They're broadcasting surrender demands on all frequencies." Diana's ice-blue eyes never wavered from the tactical display. "Let them talk, Jake. How long until they reach effective weapons range?" 47 minutes at their current speed, Captain." Diana activated her command channel. "All stations, this is Storm. Execute Revelation Protocol. The masquerade ends today." Across Earth's solar system, installations that had appeared to be simple research stations or mining platforms began their transformation. The Luna defense grid dropped its holographic camouflage, revealing massive particle cannons that emerged from beneath the moon's surface. Saturn's rings suddenly bristled with weapons platforms that had been disguised as ice chunks for decades. High Commander Zortak studied the sensor readings with growing confusion. "General, something is wrong. Our scans are detecting massive energy signatures where there should be nothing but empty space." Korath dismissed the concern with a wave of his scaled hand. "Sensor ghosts. Their primitive technology is probably interfering with our instruments." He opened a communication channel to the human fleet. "Attention, Earth vessels. You are vastly outnumbered and outgunned. Surrender now and your population will be relocated safely to designated worlds." Captain Storm's response crackled across the void. "General Korath, this is Captain Diana Storm of the United Earth Forces. You have one opportunity to withdraw from our system peacefully. This is your only warning." The bridge of the Void Render erupted in laughter. The idea that a single human ship would threaten their entire armada was beyond ridiculous. Korath's mandibles clicked in amusement. "Human, you pilot one obsolete vessel against our magnificent fleet. What possible threat could you pose?" "You're about to find out," Diana replied calmly. The first shot came from the Zephyrian Vanguard, a plasma torpedo meant to disable rather than destroy. The brilliant energy bolt streaked toward the Defiant, and every Zephyrian officer expected to see the human ship's shields collapse and its hull breached. Instead, the torpedo simply vanished. "What happened?" Zortak demanded, his 6 eyes wide with shock. "The weapon just disappeared, sir. Our sensors show it was absorbed by some kind of dimensional field." Before Korath could process this information, the Defiant returned fire. What emerged from its weapons bay looked like a simple projectile, almost primitive compared to the energy weapons the Zephyrians employed, but as it traveled through space, Reality seemed to bend around it. The projectile passed through the Zephyrian ship's shields as if they didn't exist. It punched through the hull without detonating, instead creating a perfectly circular hole that went completely through the vessel from bow to stern. Atmosphere and debris vented into space as the ship's structural integrity failed. Impossible, Korath breathed. No known technology can penetrate our defense screens. Captain Storm's voice filled the bridge once more. General, your shields are designed to stop energy weapons and conventional projectiles. They were never meant to handle rounds that exist partially outside normal spacetime. That was a warning shot. The next one won't be so gentle. Across the Zephyrian fleet, confusion reigned. Their targeting systems couldn't lock onto human vessels that seemed to phase in and out of normal space. When they fired, their weapons either missed completely or were absorbed by defensive fields that shouldn't have existed. The human response was devastating in its precision. Ships that had been invisible to Zephyrian sensors suddenly appeared throughout their formation. These weren't the primitive vessels their intelligence had reported, but sleek predators with hulls that seemed to absorb light itself. Commander Vex Thane aboard the human vessel. Shadowhawk coordinated the defensive grid with mathematical precision. Grid 7 through 12, target their command ships. Grid 1 through 6, focus on their heavy cruisers. Remember, we're not here to destroy them all. We're here to send a message. The battle, if it could be called that, lasted less than an hour. Zephyrian ships found themselves outmaneuvered by vessels that moved through space, as if the laws of physics were merely suggestions. Their weapons were useless against enemies that could shift into dimensions they couldn't even detect. When the firing stopped, the mighty Zephyrian armada was scattered and broken. Nearly half their ships were disabled or destroyed, while not a single human vessel had taken significant damage. The survivors huddled together in a defensive formation, their confidence shattered. General Korath's flagship was barely operational. Its command bridge opened to space through the hole Diana's warning shot had created. Emergency force fields kept the atmosphere in, but his pride was beyond repair. "This is impossible," he whispered to Zortak. "Humans are supposed to be primitive. How do they possess technology that makes our greatest weapons useless?" The answer came from an unexpected source. Professor Nathan Cross appeared on their emergency communications, his weathered face grave with ancient knowledge. "Because, General, we've been preparing for this day for 3,000 years. Professor Nathan Cross materialized as a hologram on the bridge of the crippled Void Render, his image flickering slightly due to the damaged communication systems. The elderly human appeared unremarkable in his simple academic robes, but his eyes held the weight of millennia of hidden knowledge. General Korath struggled to his feet, his purple scales darkened with confusion and rage. "Human, how did you breach our secured channels? What sorcery is this?" Nathan smiled sadly, the expression of someone who had witnessed this scene play out countless times throughout history. "Not sorcery, General. Simply technology your species hasn't encountered yet. We've been monitoring your communications since you first entered our space." High Commander Zortak limped forward, his multiple wounds bleeding green ichor onto the deck plating. "You speak as if humans have been spacefaring for centuries. Our intelligence clearly shows your species only achieved interstellar flight within the last 50 years. "Your intelligence shows you exactly what we wanted it to show," Nathan replied, his voice gentle but firm. "Let me share with you the true history of humanity's place in this galaxy." The hologram expanded, displaying star charts that made both Zephyrians gasp in recognition. The maps showed not just current galactic civilization, but the rise and fall of dozens of species over the past 3,000 years. "We call ourselves the Shepherds," Nathan continued. "For 30 centuries we have watched over this galaxy's development, every major war that mysteriously ended before total destruction, every plague that suddenly found its cure, every tyrant who inexplicably fell from power. That was us. Emperor Thrax, ruler of the Zephyrian Empire, joined the communication from his throne world of Zephyr Prime. His massive form dominated the holographic display as he leaned forward with interest. "Prove these claims, human. Show us evidence of this supposed guardianship. Nathan nodded and gestured to unseen operators. The display changed to show historical events that every galactic citizen knew. The Krylon plague that threatened to wipe out the Andorian Confederation 1,500 years ago. Your history books say it burned itself out naturally. The truth is, human bioengineers spent decades developing a cure and seeded it into your atmosphere using stealth ships. The image shifted again. The Vorthan Empire's superweapon project designed to crack planets in half. Your records show it failed due to design flaws. Actually, our saboteurs ensured it could never function properly. Korath's mandibles clicked, nervously. Even if this is true, why reveal yourselves now? Why break your own secrecy? Because, Nathan's voice hardened, you threatened our home. The one rule we established when we began our guardianship was simple. Leave Earth alone and we would ensure galactic peace. Attack our world and face the consequences. Captain Diana Storm's voice joined the conversation as her ship moved, alongside the damaged Zephyrian flagship. Professor Cross is being diplomatic, General. The truth is harsher. We've prevented 17 major galactic wars, stopped 43 extinction-level events, and guided the development of over 200 species. We've done this all in secret, asking for nothing in return except to be left in peace. The holographic display now showed images that chilled the Zephyrian observers to their cores. Human colonies existed in places that should have been impossible. The hearts of stellar nurseries, the event horizons of black holes, dimensions that folded space and time into impossible geometries. Commander Rex Davin, humanity's chief intelligence officer, appeared alongside Nathan's hologram. His cybernetic implants glowed softly as he accessed vast databases of information. Your empire alone has benefited from our interventions 47 times, General Korath, the asteroid that would have struck your homeworld 2 centuries ago. We diverted it. The civil war that nearly destroyed your civilization. We eliminated the weapons dealers who were fueling both sides. Emperor Thrax's voice carried a tremor of uncertainty. If humans possess such power, such technology, why hide? Why not rule openly? Nathan's expression grew thoughtful. Because power corrupts, Emperor. We learned that lesson long ago when we first achieved interstellar travel. Our early attempts at open leadership led to stagnation and resentment among other species. We discovered that the best way to nurture growth is from the shadows, guiding, without controlling. Dr. Elizabeth Kane, Earth's chief xenopsychologist, joined the growing conference. Her research into galactic species behavior had shaped humanity's approach for generations. Every species needs to find its own path to greatness, Emperor. Our role is simply to ensure that path doesn't lead to mutual destruction. The weight of these revelations pressed down on the Zephyrian leadership. Everything they thought they knew about the galaxy's history was wrong. Humanity wasn't a primitive species ripe for conquest, but the hidden architects of galactic civilization itself. General Korath sank into his command chair, his 4 arms trembling with the magnitude of his mistake. The monument. The ancient warning. Your people wrote it. We helped write it, Nathan confirmed, along with the last survivors of the First Confederation, before they transcended to pure energy. They wanted to leave a warning for future generations, but over time, the message was forgotten or dismissed as myth. The professor's image began to fade as he prepared to end the transmission. Now you understand, General. Humanity is not your enemy, but we are not defenseless prey either. We are the shepherds of this galaxy, and we take that responsibility seriously. As the hologram vanished, silence fell over the Zephyrian fleet. They had come seeking easy conquest, and instead discovered they had attacked the very guardians, who had protected them for millennia. Admiral Rebecca Kane stood in the war room deep beneath the Colorado mountains, her steel-gray eyes reflecting the holographic displays that showed the current state of the galaxy. Unlike the diplomatic approach of Professor Cross, Rebecca represented humanity's military might. Her scarred hands had signed orders that could reshape star systems, and today, those orders would be more significant than ever before. Admiral, reported Colonel Marcus Webb from his position at the tactical console, Zephyrian reinforcements are mobilizing across their empire. Intelligence, Suggests they're planning a full-scale assault despite the losses at Sol. Rebecca nodded grimly. She had hoped the demonstration of human capabilities would be enough to deter further aggression, but Emperor Thrax's pride was proving stronger than his wisdom. They still don't understand, do they? They think what they saw was the extent of our abilities. Fleet Marshal Krath of the Zephyrian Empire was indeed rallying every available warship. From his command center on Zephyr Prime, he coordinated the movement of over 10,000 vessels. The loss at Sol had been shocking, but he attributed it to surprise and trickery rather than genuine superiority. The humans caught us off guard, Krath declared to his assembled commanders via holographic conference. But we've analyzed their technology now. Their weapons phase through our shields by using dimensional manipulation. We can adapt our defenses to counter this. Commander Jex Voss, one of Krath's most experienced officers, expressed concern. Sir, the intelligence reports suggest human capabilities go far beyond what we witnessed. Perhaps we should consider diplomatic solutions. Krath's scaled fist slammed onto the command table. Diplomacy is for equals, Commander. These humans have hidden in shadows for millennia because they know direct confrontation would expose their weaknesses. We will crush them with overwhelming force. Unknown to the Zephyrian fleet, their every movement was being tracked by human observation posts scattered throughout the galaxy. Captain Tyler Reeves commanded one such station, hidden within an asteroid field in the neutral zone. His crew of 12 operated technology that could monitor communications across light years of space. Admiral Kane, Tyler reported through quantum entanglement communication. The Zephyrian warfleet is massive, 27 battle groups each with at least 400 ships. They're converging on Sol from multiple vectors. Rebecca's expression remained calm despite the overwhelming odds. Thank you, Captain. Initiate Phase 2 of Guardian Protocol. It's time to show them what we're really capable of. Across human space, installations that had remained hidden for centuries began to reveal themselves. The Titan facility, buried beneath Europa's ice, housed weapons that could manipulate gravity itself. The Prometheus Array, disguised as a stellar observatory near Alpha Centauri, controlled devices that could fold space-time into impossible configurations. Dr. Samuel Hayes, director of the Advanced Weapons Division, emerged from his laboratory with a device that appeared deceptively simple. The small crystalline cube in his hands contained technology that could disrupt the fundamental forces holding matter together. Admiral, the entropy disruptors are ready for deployment, Samuel reported. Each device can affect an area roughly the size of a small moon. The Zephyrian fleet will find their ships simply coming apart at the molecular level. Rebecca examined the weapon with the respect it deserved. How many do we have operational? 17 units, ma'am. More than enough to handle their entire armada. Meanwhile, the Zephyrian fleet approached Sol system with confidence born of overwhelming numbers. Fleet Marshal Krath watched his tactical displays with satisfaction. 10,000 ships against the few dozen human vessels that remained in the system seemed like favorable odds. Begin the assault, Krath commanded. Focus fire on their planet. Once Earth is under our control, these Phantom Guardians will have no choice but to surrender. The attack began with a coordinated barrage from every Zephyrian vessel. Thousands of plasma torpedoes and energy beams converged on Earth's position, enough firepower to crack a planet's crust. But as the weapons approached their target, something extraordinary happened. The attack simply stopped. Not absorbed or deflected, but frozen in space as if time itself had ceased to function around them. The deadly projectiles hung motionless between the fleets, their energy signatures flickering like dying stars. Admiral Kane's voice echoed across all communication frequencies. Fleet Marshal Krath, you've just witnessed a temporal stasis field. Your weapons are caught in a bubble where time moves differently. We can release them to return to your ships, or we can let them dissipate harmlessly into space. The choice is yours. Krath stared in disbelief at his sensor readings. This is impossible. No species can manipulate time itself. We've had 3,000 years to perfect our technology, Rebecca replied. While your people focused on conquest, we studied the fundamental forces of the universe. We learned to bend space, manipulate time, and harness energies that most species can't even detect. To demonstrate her point, Rebecca gave a subtle nod to her weapons officer. Lieutenant Sarah Kim activated one of the entropy disruptors, targeting an empty area of space between the fleets. Reality itself seemed to unravel in a sphere roughly a kilometer across, creating a void where nothing could exist. The effect lasted only seconds, but its message was clear. The Zephyrian fleet found themselves facing an enemy that could delete sections of space-time itself. General Korath, still aboard his damaged flagship, finally understood the true scope of their error. Marshal Krath, we need to withdraw immediately. These humans aren't just guardians. They're gods among mortals. But retreat was no longer an option. The human fleet had surrounded the Zephyrian armada using technology that allowed them to appear anywhere instantaneously. 10,000 ships found themselves trapped by a force they couldn't comprehend, facing weapons they couldn't defend against. Admiral Kane's final message was delivered with the authority of someone who held the power of creation and destruction in her hands. This ends now, Marshal. Surrender, or watch your fleet cease to exist. President James Mitchell stood before the assembled representatives of the Galactic Council, his presence commanding attention despite his unremarkable appearance. The emergency session had been called after news of humanity's true nature spread across known space like wildfire. Species that had considered humans insignificant now looked upon their representative with a mixture of awe and terror. Council Elder Viss, the ancient leader of the Crystalline Collective, spoke with a voice that resonated through quantum frequencies. President Mitchell, the galaxy demands answers. For 3 millennia, we believed we governed ourselves. Now, we learn that humanity has been pulling the strings from behind the curtain. James nodded respectfully toward the elder, his diplomatic training evident in every gesture. Elder Vice, we never pulled strings. We simply prevented the rope from becoming a noose around the galaxy's neck. In the aftermath of the Zephyrian surrender, the truth had indeed spread quickly. Fleet Marshal Krath, his pride broken but his honor intact, had transmitted the full account of their defeat to every corner of the galaxy. The revelation that humanity possessed technology capable of manipulating the fundamental forces of reality had shaken every species to their core. Ambassador Helen Torres, Earth's chief diplomat, had spent weeks in emergency sessions with leaders across the galaxy. Her patient explanations of humanity's benevolent guardianship had prevented panic, but questions remained about what this revelation meant for galactic society. The Zephyrian Empire has formally surrendered, Helen reported, to the Council. Emperor Thrax has agreed to reparations, though we've declined most of their offers. We ask only for what we've always asked for, to be left in peace to continue our work. Director Ryan Foster of the Human Intelligence Network had been busy revealing the scope of their operations to selected galactic leaders. His briefings showed a network of observation posts, research stations, and intervention teams that spanned every inhabited system in the galaxy. We have agents embedded in every major government, Ryan explained to a closed session of security chiefs. Not as spies seeking to harm you, but as guardians watching for threats that could destabilize entire sectors. The plague of Rigel 7, the quantum storm of 2847, the vegan succession crisis. We prevented or minimized each catastrophe. General Patricia Hayes, Earth's defense coordinator, worked with alien military commanders to establish new protocols. The demonstration of human weapons technology had made traditional concepts of military power obsolete overnight. We're not interested in conquest or dominion, Patricia assured the assembled officers. Our advanced capabilities exist solely to protect galactic civilization from threats too great for any single species to handle alone. The Zephyrian delegation sat quietly during these proceedings, their earlier arrogance replaced by humbled understanding. Emperor Thrax himself had made the journey to address the council, his massive form dwarfed by the implications of recent events. I came here to apologize, Thrax announced, his voice carrying across the great chamber. My empire's aggression against Earth wasn't just an attack on one species. It was an assault on the very guardians who have protected us all for countless generations. Council Elder Vice raised a crystalline appendage for attention. The question before us now is simple. What changes? How do we proceed knowing that humanity has been our secret protector? President Mitchell stepped forward, his expression serious but compassionate. Nothing changes unless you want it to change. We never sought recognition or gratitude for our role. We intervened only when necessary, guided only when asked, and protected only when threatened. That mission continues regardless of whether it's secret or public. Dr. Margaret Stone, Earth's leading xenosociologist, had prepared detailed studies on how the revelation might affect galactic society. Her research suggested that knowledge of humanity's guardianship could actually strengthen interspecies cooperation rather than create dependency. Species develop best when they face appropriate challenges, Margaret explained to the Scientific Council. Our role was never to solve your problems for you, but to ensure that those problems didn't become extinction-level events. The debates continued for days, but gradually, a consensus emerged. The galaxy's species recognized that humanity's guardianship had allowed their civilizations to flourish without the constant threat of total annihilation. Rather than feeling manipulated, most species felt grateful for the protection they had unknowingly received.